Okay, so we're in the middle of, again, according to my number, again, Mishnah Test, Perkei Mishnah Test. In the middle of discussing the 5 Talmidim that Rabbi ben Zakkai had. And he asked each one of them, please share with me, what's the Derech Yeshara Shiur Ba'adam? We saw that part last week, the first part of the Mishnah. What's the Derech Yeshara? Let's chazir that quickly. Derech Yeshara Shiur Ba'adam. What's the straight path that a person should be dovuk to? Rabbi Eliezer said, ayin tov, a good eye, which should be said, the Rabbeinu said means midas hanedivos. Very generous, the person's very generous. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Chaver Tov, you should have a good friend, you should be a good friend. That's a healing. You should be a good friend, and then you'll be datim Rabbi Sinabrius. That's very important. That's the Derech Yeshara. Rabbi Yossi said Shachein Tov, a good neighbor. So I should be a good neighbor. So if I'm liked by 5 or 8 people, that'll result in me being liked by everyone. And it's a very good midah to be good derech to be miyushav Mabrius, Ma'ur Mabrius. Rabbi Shimon said Aroyis Anoila to see what's going to be. We do an action now, but you're not sure what's going to happen down the line. Right? So if a person can see what's going to be down the line, we said from the Brisker of last week, so then that's the Derech Yeshara, to always cheshbon what's going to be. Rabbi Elazar said a leiv tov. A leiv tov. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai responded to that. I agree with Rabbi Elazar, because bichlal dvar of divreichem, that he really encompasses everything that you guys said as well. What's a leiv tov? The Rabbeinu said a leiv tov is someone who does not get angry. The midas haratzon, which really means patience. The person's patient. He's not makbar on his covered. You know, he can be soivel anything and anyone, and he never really gets angry. Nothing's coming to him. Doesn't expect anything. That is the derech yeshara she'ivim eloi adu. That's the most important midah. It sounds like, as far as the mahalach hachayim, that's what one should do. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai continues now in the second half of the mission. He says, Amar lahem tzuru ezi derech ra'ah. Let's go out and see what is the bad path, what is the derech ra'av that a person should distance himself from. So Rabbeinu explains that he says, you have to explain what was the question and what exactly is their answer. The opposite of whatever the derech yeshar is the derech ra'av. Right? This is seemingly, you don't need this question. Thank you. It's a perfect question, because we know what the derech yeshar is. The opposite is the derech ra'av. There are certain midas, good midas, that the opposite is not bad. For example, midas hachasidus. Right? A chasid, she ma'ila gedola ad ma'od. Tremendous ma'ila of one who goes lifnim mishura sedin. The chasid goes beyond the letter of the law. Now, if I don't go beyond the letter of the law, I'm not a rasha. My she'ifa, my chukka in life, my desire is not to be a chassid. I want to do what's right. I want to keep Shabbos. I want to put on my tefillin. I'm not interested. I want to be nice to people. I'm not interested in going above and beyond what's expected of me. Is that a bad thing? It's not bad. It's just not good, right? In Yiddishkeit, why can't we have a concept of a guy who does extra credit, a person who gets 100 the test, and a person who fails the test? You have 3 levels. Says Rabbeinu, it's a big mistake. Again, he'll say, Im lo yischased, lo yikara ra. If I don't do chesed, if I'm not a chassid, I still won't be called bad, evil. Al kin omer ayin ra. So the Mishnah says, Rabbi Eliezer says ayin ra. The ayin ra is the derech ra, kloimar, midas hakilus. Midas hakilus is the opposite of the divas. A nadavan is someone who's always giving. Kilus is a closed fist. A person doesn't always give. He gives what he's supposed to, doesn't go above and beyond what's expected of him. Don't think that being very generous about chesed is good, and not being generous is not bad. I didn't steal. I pay my workers on time. I don't steal. I'm just not generous. But Rabbi says Yonah, it's very bad. The foundation of every bad midah is this hashkafa. I don't think it's just with ayin ra, with the divas, but he's in the context of the divas. The yisoid, the foundation of every midah ra, is thinking, okay, I'm not going to be a mitsuyan in this midah. I'm not going to be exemplary in this midah. I'll just be normal. That is the foundation of every bad midah. From there, a person will come to do a davar ra. You shouldn't say, in any chassid. If I don't reach the highest levels of chassidus, I won't be a chassid. I'll be a tzaddik in that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded me. A person who's missing an opportunity of chesed, you can't. It's a lacking. You can't fill that lacking in afterwards. He's going to miss out in the world to come. What he's lacking now a little bit will be lacking a lot. He calls it pasuk in Kehelis. In other words, my father used to tell me, if you shoot for a 90 on a test, you get an 80. If you shoot for an 80, you get a 70. You have to always shoot for 110, and then you get 100. Yiddishkeit the same thing. If a person thinks to himself that I'm not going to be a chassid, my goal is just to be the letter of the Lord, HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects of me, he's going to end up having midos rois. He's in that midah, in that tchuna, he's going to be very deficient. There's no such thing as not striving for chassidus. An unbelievable chiddush. If a person doesn't strive for excellence, that's the derech ra she's rachik mimeno ha'adam. That's the evil path. Now we think evil is robbing a bank, putting on what we call a balaclava in Australia, the ski mask, and running into it, robbing a bank. That's a ganav. That's a person who was a Russian. No, not giving a little $5 to the mashul who comes to your house is going to lead to robbing a bank, maybe in a more sophisticated way. But don't think when a person's not mischasid, he's just not being a tzaddik. He's actually, it's the yisoid. It's unbelievable. When you rob a bank, at least you know you're a Russian. There's a mile to the guy who robs the bank. I'm not saying you should rob banks. But the guy who robs the bank, there's a mile, he knows he's a Russian. But the person who doesn't give to the mashul when he can give, he doesn't give, so that's much worse, much more subtle. He thinks, okay, so I'm not a tzaddik. I know a tzaddik would invite him in and would give him $15 and would be machabed, but okay, so I can't be a tzaddik now because I have people waiting for me, so I won't be a tzaddik. In a sense, that's worse than the guy who robs the bank, because the person he just thinks, okay, I'm not being a chassid, I'm not being a tzaddik. Does zok the Rabbeinu over here. So that's the ayin raw.
The Rav of my shul once gave a mashal that there's a guy who would do all the mitzvot perfectly, but he always go by the minimum shita and do everything exactly what he had to do, but never more. So then he died and went to Alam Abba, and they gave him a bowl of tuna fish, and he said, "What's this?" He's like, "There's a shita that you can be yotei Alam Abba with tuna fish."
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Very good. Okay, so that's Rabbi Eliezer ayin ra. Rabbi Yeshua says chaver ra, and Rabbi Yosef says shafin ra. So on that, Rabbi Yonah says, "V'Yosef ba'atzmoi ra el chaver v'l'shchenet kein yiyeh." If a person himself is going to be raw, he'll end up being raw to his chaver and to his shafin. Rabbi Shimon, who said in the first half of the Mishnah, what's the derech toiv that the person should be davar to the derech yeshara? It was royas hanoilim. So here he says, haloive ve'enu mishalim. What's the derech raw? The one should be misrafik from a person who lends money and doesn't pay back. Explains the Rabbeinu Yonah. He couldn't have said the opposite of royas hanoilim. She'yirchak mimena ha'adam shum midara shkol adam meruchak mimenu me'elav. So to be rois and oiled you can do, but you can't do the opposite. You can't not be rois and oiled. So he says a person who borrows money and doesn't pay back, so when he's borrowing the money, he does not know how he's going to pay back. It's also to borrow money without the foresight of where am I going to get the funds to pay it back. The person has to have, when he borrows, he knows the money's coming in later, so he borrows it now. But if he has no idea he's going to pay it back down the line, so that's a lack of foresight, and that is the derech ra that a person should be misrafik from. The Mishnah continues, Echad alev min ha'adam, kalev min ha'makam. A person who borrows from a human being is like he's borrowing from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Remember, lev roshav lo yishal. Someone who borrows, doesn't pay, is called a roshav. It's tzaddik choynein v'noisen. And it's tzaddik choynein v'noisen. So explains the Rabbeinu Yonah, even if the person borrowed the money and he can't pay. So the lender brings him to Bezdin. And the Bezdin passes, you have to pay. He's out any money. So they go through all his assets, he doesn't have any money. So the Bezdin says, okay, then if you can't pay, then you can't pay. So the person thinks, okay, fine, now I'm potter. That's the Mishnah saying that a loiva min ha'adam is kal loiva min ha'makom. He's still chayiv b'dinei shemaim. You shouldn't think that, okay, I didn't do anything wrong. I borrowed money, I couldn't pay back, and now I'm potter until I get the money. No, you live in a makom, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu will still be to pay the person, even though in Olam Hazeh he can't pay back. But there is one exception, according to the Gra. There is one exception, Mishmur brings us down, where one is allowed to borrow money, even though he knows he cannot pay it back. By Shabbos. By Shabbos, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu guarantee, he's the guarantor. He's the guarantor that a person will be able to pay back. So Zak to go, and one's allowed to borrow money for Tzarech Shabbos, even though he has no clue how he's going to pay back. It's a machlokes. It's the first simon in Hilchos Shabbos. I think it's a machlokes. There are other sheets. The Gra holds you can do that. So, because there's a mefurish avtach l'vu alai bana. Now, if a person just wants to have geshmak of food because he wants geshmak of food, and order a lot, so he's leftovers for the whole week, So then, obviously, that's not what the Gemara is talking about. He's talking a person mamish wants to have Oynik Shabbos, so then he's allowed to borrow without paying back a special Avtaka, but otherwise, one cannot do that. Continues the Mishnah. Belazar again gets the last one to go, and he says, Leiv Ra, having a Leiv Ra. Amar Lahem says Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, Roya Ani es Divrei Rabbi Elazar ben Arach shebechlal dvar of Divrei. So what's the derech Ra? The one should be disracted from a Leiv Ra means a person who gets angry. That was the big chiddush from last week, and the big chiddush this week that the derech yeshar, that a person to choose a path in life. I would have said the midah of kas or lack thereof is not a path in life. It's not a path in life. Chasidus always on the thing Mishra Sadin, a Roya Sanoilib, that's a path in life. But not being angry is a path in life. But the Rabbeinu Yonah says, Pshat Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai is that a person who has savlanis, who's patient, he doesn't have a short fuse, that is the best path in life. Like everything else then will not zrizim adim mitzvahs, and that's going to lead to all good midas. That's the chiddush. Rabbi we see again this week, that something to work on an L as we get closer, as we run very quickly towards Rosh Hashanah. Again, to work on this midah of leiv toiv, and be misrachik from leiv ra. Again, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai is saying this includes everything that everyone else said. A person who has savlanis, midas haratzin, he's misrachik from kas. We'll see Bezhem next week in Mishnah Yud. Again, the Talmidim are going to be stressing the idea of not getting angry. It seems that is the worst possible midah is anger, and it's something to work on. This week we'll have two projects. One project will be working on whoever it's Nagaya for. They say people with red hair have this propensity to get angry. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I'm not going to comment on that. But everyone should work on Midas Hakas. And maybe let's pick one Midah, as the Rabbeinu said in the beginning here, that until now we've kind of not tried to excel in, because we figured, I'm not robbing banks in that Midah, but I'm also not a tzaddik. Try to pick one Midah that we're kind of mediocre in, and see what we can do to excel in that Midah. Our two projects for this week.